Welcome to the Intercut Podcast, the weekly show going over the TV, movies, and entertainment that people can't cut away from. I am your co-host, Zachary Shevich, and joining me, he still believes in staying home. It's Arturo Zurita!
I forgot to put this one last week, but I was going to say, for those who don't know, Intercut is now on vertical, meaning that you can watch us horizontal. You don't even have to pay the $4.99 like other apps have you do. You can just switch us over and boom, we're right there. Joined with a special guest today as well to talk about some brackets. It's Say Goodnight Kevin!
Woot! Woot, woot!
We're recording this from Noams and No Laugh Tracks.
Where's the laugh? Come on, I paused.
I think we got
Thanks for having me on, guys.
Always a pleasure to have you on, dude.
It's a pleasure to bring Kevin back onto the show. He also joined us for a boys review back in the day, but we're going to talk about a wider scope of things on today's show in a little bit. We're going to get into a bracket of the best box office champion. But first, we want to make sure that you're subscribed to the Intercut Podcast, either the video podcast on youtube.com/intercutpod or the audio version available on most podcatchers. Also, follow Intercut on social media, whether it's Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. We are at IntercutPod. That's at IntercutPod. That's short for podcast. All right, let's get into it with the way we start every week here on Intercut with what we're watching. What are you watching, buddy?
There was a bunch of movies that came out last week, a bunch of VODs. I don't know if you guys have heard of them. One of them being the exclusive Butt Boy, about the guy who absorbs things into his
They had
butt.
a fairly aggressive email campaign.
Yes, they did.
And I
Ignored
did
every
not get
single
around
one.
to watching it. Yes.
Well, it came across my radar, and I decided, why not? Why not just watch this thing? It's not great. It's definitely one of those movies that you're going in, and you're probably supposed to watch it with friends, not sober, and just laugh at like the absurdity that happens. Wouldn't highly recommend it, but after all the bombardment of getting the Butt Boy ads being sent to me, I did finally give it the chance like we're supposed to on this Intercut Podcast, and no, not for me. Another one, though, that I did get, South by release, as a lot of the South by ones start coming out little by little, was Bad Trip. Bad Trip is the sort of like Jackass story where two guys, Andre Holland and, well, not Andre Holland, what's his name? Andre from the Comedy Central show. Him and I want to say it's Laurel. Hari, they go on a road trip, and during this road trip, it's also supposed to be kind of like a Jackass thing that's happening, and where they're doing this story of trying to get from Florida to New York to find the love of his life while pranking real people. Usually that can be a great thing. No, but there's screeners going around for it. And I'm hoping that it's going to be a part of the Amazon thing. I don't know if it actually will be, but I found this one to be obnoxious. This is one of those movies where it pretends to like call out some of the people, and it's more so like, how do I put this? The joke is the people, and not necessarily like they're in the joke. But then at the end, they come out with the camera, and everyone's always going to be like, oh, that was so funny that you did that. So sadly, I didn't feel most of the jokes worked. But the ending, I don't want to spoil it, but there is a bit that they're leading up to, and I thought that was kind of funny for fans of a earlier Wayans flick that came out. So
yeah, this has got a little bit of like a Borat meets Jackass vibe,
Yeah.
I guess, to it, in that it's kind of putting regular people in unsuspecting situations with hidden cameras. But Eric Andre, who is the guy you were talking about, has this like grotesque like body humor that's often graphically violent involved throughout. You said it only worked for you in like the end, though.
Yeah, because they have this running bit that they're going for. They're trying to shove in a narrative, which is their story, and they're acting in front of people. So it's like you'll have moments where it's funny because you'll have a reaction of a real-life person who doesn't know what's going on. But I felt that most of the time, it depends. I think fans of Eric Andre who like cringe comedy will like this, because this is more of the reaction being nobody's laughing. And then keep it going, as opposed to like a quick shot of like, I can't believe these stunt people just did that, and then they move on to the next bit. This was more so they like getting the room to be awkward. Yeah. And I feel, if this would have actually premiered at South by like it was supposed to, as being one of the big highlights of South by as well, that with an audience, it would have been a lot better. But when you don't really have that audience, it's like you're watching something without the track.
Tiffany Haddish is in this one too, right?
She's the one who does the most jokes that are just yelling at people, and they're going, "Why are you yelling at me?" and it isn't until afterwards that they realize what's happening. But yeah, it's Eric Andre, Tiffany Haddish, and Laurel Howery.
All right, so maybe one to keep on the radar if you're a fan of any of those people. Maybe not if you're not. Kevin, how about you? Anything you've been watching, new or old?
Well, I watched Tiger King.
Everybody has to at this point.
Yeah,
it's
it's
a
like
requirement with your Netflix subscription.
So many people I've seen say like, "Oh, I made it through this episode," or "I made it through that episode." I don't really recommend it, I guess, unless you hate yourself.
Yep, talk about it.
It's just so sad, and there's no like redemption anywhere. I felt real sad about it after. Like it at first, it's very interesting. And then it gets worse. Like you're like, oh, that's a bad person. Oh, that's
a worse person.
They're actually. If I watched the first episode now, I would say like, oh, what a how naive I was, because it gets worse and worse. And then as you start to see how these terrible people who are just controlling people, which I guess maybe is the type of people that want to own big wild animals, are just people who like to be in control, maybe. I don't know. Not to disparage any good people out there
who own tigers,
tigers, I guess. But like, oh my goodness! But to see the people's lives who are in the wake of these terrible people, and people's lives get ruined and stuff. That's where it really is like, well, this, because the people who Carol Baskin and Joe, whatever, Exotic and the cult leader, whatever his name was,
the Bhagavan.
They're bad people, right?
Yeah.
Like, but whatever happens to them, I don't really care. But like, the people who have been affected by those people are the people that I feel really bad for.
There is a moment that you get in like maybe it's the last of the 7 episodes where you kind of do get to sit with some of the people who've been caught up in this crazy whirlwind of human tragedy.
So and I will say I was told today, because I turned it off after the 7th, maybe the 6th. I think it was
there were 7 episodes before they added the extra 8th one, the after show.
Well, I was like, we watched that. That was the last one we watched, and the next day I was like, Carmen, I think I can't watch any more of this. I can't do it. So I was told today that I should watch both of the last episodes, and that might make me feel better.
No.
But I'm scared that I won't feel better, and I'll have to watch 2 more hours
episodes of Tiger King.
What's funny is I like crime drama stuff, but this is a wholly different thing. Or like I like those kind of, even the one about the nun,
the keepers?
That made me
the keepers.
Yeah, that made me feel pretty sick to my stomach, but it was still interesting, and I didn't hate it. It was obvious who was the bad guy, maybe. And
so do you feel it's also, is it the subject, or is it how they cover the subject that bothers you more so?
I don't know, because I don't mind it. I think it's just mainly, there's one moment in it, and I don't want to spoil too much of it, but there's a few people in the last few episodes whose lives are really affected or destroyed or ended, perhaps, who the way they present it is very shocking. Yep. There's their campaign manager, the young guy who had worked at Walmart. That's the guy I feel bad for the most, because he witnessed a really bad thing, and they show that footage of him seeing that happen, and that like shook me up pretty heavily, and then and then him just kind of all it's insane.
The whole series is kind of like this human tragedy, as I was saying, masquerading as like reality TV. It kind of gives you this, like, in the way that I think it's assembled, it gives you this like, guess what happens next to these crazy people, but like meanwhile you have people who are literally losing limbs and being forever mentally scarred in the process. I did not feel great about a lot of the documentary's decisions, even though I got through all 8 episodes now. Yeah, it's a unsettling story.
Yep.
For sure.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about that in terms of like just the way, I mean, obviously I think about the way documentaries present themselves, but they do it in such a, it feels very natural the way they do it. And amazing how, I don't know where, I don't know, I don't think they reenact anything, do they? Or, I mean, there's got to be some, like when the hitman, everybody knows there's a hitman at some point. When he's driving to Florida, they didn't.
There's some minimal reenactments.
But the craziest part is that they have all the footage.
Right. That's what's crazy is that I've seen so many documentaries, and something like this typically, like, it needed to be made. You had the footage. It's a story that needs to be told. I'm glad that it was told. I'm sure that there's stuff in there. It's the type of thing, I almost feel like it crosses all party lines, you know? You
Easily.
watch this and you're kind of, you know, you see the bad in people, and everyone can agree on quite a few things in the series that they're like, that's bad. That is no good. Even, I mean, the fact that he runs as a libertarian.
I forget he runs as a politician. It was on the ballot. That's insane.
Yeah, something that the documentary didn't even mention. I believe he got 12% of the vote.
Wow.
In Oklahoma.
You want to know the most annoying part with it being such a massive cultural thing? Like, I feel like every single person who we might have coming on will be like, you know, I finally caught Tiger King, and come November, we're probably going to see a bunch of idiots type in Joe Exotic just for the hell of it. So, yeah, if you're saying 12%, and that's before the Netflix
crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I do remember they played that John Oliver clip, and I remember that going around.
Me too. I was watching that John
Oliver.
When
I watched it, and I was like, oh, right, I remember that, because he's like, I own guns, I'm gay. I'm like, oh, I remember that one. That's like the bad kind of libertarian.
Yeah.
Oh, man. So, anyway, watch that. Don't recommend it. But also, probably, if you want to have to not say at every... Once we're allowed to be around other people, if you don't want to have to say, well, I haven't watched it yet, maybe go ahead and watch it while you can.
Yeah, if you need some material for your Zoom calls, it's there for you.
The water cooler Zoom calls.
Yeah. That's literally why I watched it, because everybody I work with is like, have you watched it yet? On Zoom. So,
you're obligated.
Good,
every other post for a week on Twitter was Carol Baskin.
Baskin.
As for what I've been watching, there are a couple of movies coming to Netflix this week that are interesting. First up was the Willoughbys. Art, I think you caught this one as well.
Yes, I did.
It's an animated movie. It's got a little bit of that sort of off-kilter animation style that I think you get when you go away from like the Disneys and Pixars of the world.
Yeah.
You get some more creative character designs. You have a pretty awesome voice cast here, including Will Forte, Martin Short, Jane Krakowski, Maya Rudolph, and Ricky Gervais playing the narrator here. It's about a story of these children who are neglected by their parents and basically decide they want to become orphans. And if that sounds like a pretty dark premise for a family film, that's because it is one of these kind of delightfully macabre children's movies that has all these dark jokes that will go hopefully over kids' heads, but might entertain people who have that knowledge that they can bring in. So definitely one that I feel like most of the family will be able to enjoy. But there's also a lot of just fun little visual jokes that I really enjoyed. They do this thing where there's two twin children, both named Barnaby, and they're constantly switching which one of them is wearing the sweater, so you don't know which one is Barnaby A and which one is Barnaby B. And they'll do something where you see a shot of them, it'll cut away, and it'll cut back, and they've switched sweaters, and you didn't notice them do it. So little gags like that kept me pretty interested in it throughout. I thought it was sweet. It's a sweet children's movie. This is following Klaus, this is another original animated project that's making its way to Netflix as they continue to find all these different branches of entertainment to be a part of. But I enjoyed this one. It's going to be up on Netflix by the time this episode is up, so hopefully some people get to check it out. Art, what did you think about Willoughbys?
I love the animation from it. I know that it comes from Lois Lowry, who did The Giver. This was another book that she had done. And in terms of animation, like you said, Klaus, but it was, I don't know why I'm blinking on the... Who did Kubo? Because you were saying it's like the farther you get away from Disney, you get Leica. You get into like the Leica territory. Yeah. And I would say I like the textures of it. I think this is a movie that could have played in theaters if they wanted to. I think the sound design and a bunch of visual gags, like you were saying, with the twins. I know Alicia Cara is in it as the sister. I think she's the only part that I think takes the movie down a little bit, but it ups it in ways that I think is going to be more marketable because she's a singer. And those are her bits.
Right, she gets an original song that plays over the credits.
Exactly, and there are literal moments where she just cuts the songs. And she's fine, but there are moments where Will Forte can handle, Maya Rudolph can handle this type of dark humor. Even Ricky Gervais, who wasn't my favorite as the cat, but they still handle this very dark series of unfortunate events in stop motion type of a tone. But like she had moments where the jokes, she didn't have the delivery for it. They were fine, but it wasn't as big of a punchline as I refer to it as, I don't know if you guys have seen Gumball, but in the Amazing World of Gumball, Darwin, he is that type of character who has the punchlines, but it's supposed to be very kind of like matter of fact. And I think it's because she's not really an actress, she's not a voice actress, she's a singer. And I think that's the one thing that I've been very cautious of with animations is that they look forward to getting actual people who are more celebrities than voice actors. But that would be the only thing that I think brings it down. Other than that,
that's
I recommend
Robin Williams' fault.
Yeah, but Robin Williams is like he can actually voice act, I would say. But
I know.
You got what
that's
I mean.
what's crazy. That's what's crazy. But that's the turning point.
Everyone goes back to it.
When Robin Williams did Genie, and since he's a voice actor and he was an A-list celebrity, it informed Disney and all the other ones.
And when it's a singer,
we can just get some famous person, and I think probably Toy Story had a hand in that too.
Tom,
and that now there's anytime a animated movie comes out, it's who's the famous
voice
person in
it?
I mean, Brad Pitt even did one.
I would actually point to something a little more recent, Shark Tale, in that I felt like a lot of movies prior to Shark Tale, even you talk about Toy Story, they still, and particularly with Robin Williams, the famous actors still fit their characters really well. Shark Tale was the first time where I was like, I'm not sure why Angelina Jolie is the voice of this character at all.
Yeah.
You know?
And they made him look like them, too, which has been the new thing. Right. Like, that's my biggest thing with Onward and everything that Tom Holland is voicing is they don't even try. It's just, it's Tom Holland's clothes and an elf. It's Tom Holland, but now he's got a pigeon voiced by Will Smith he's got to take care of. And Shark Tale was the one where they just put Will Smith's face on top of a fish and then called it a day. So, but this is the Willoughbys was actually really good. I like the tone of it. I like the animation of it. And with it being on Netflix, everyone's going to have access to it. So that's dope.
Totally.
Well, the genie does look like Robin Williams.
Yeah, they do a bunch of cutaways with it. But
another movie coming to Netflix this Friday is Extraction. This is another blockbuster action film, I think sort of taking over in the vein of movies like Bright or Spencer Confidential. Netflix is looking for some kind of big, blow 'em up action vehicle that can draw a lot of eyes. I don't know if they've quite had that film yet. This is another entry
into
that.
That Ryan Reynolds one?
Right, Six Underground. There you go. That's one that was sitting there.
Six Underground.
Yeah. Carmen and I watched that one ironically, and it was a fun time.
Did you prefer it over Spencer Confidential?
Yes.
I would say that the biggest one that they've had, because it's definitely not Bright, would probably be Bird Box, but I don't know if that's considered like an action blockbuster film. But
yeah, because
skirting the line.
Spencer Confidential feels like a made-for-TV movie.
Oh, we do not like Spencer Confidential here at all.
Where the Six Underground feels like a blockbuster, but just a bad one. Just like
that's a great way to put it.
The premise is weird. It's like, hey, this is how I imagine that movie came about. Whoever it could have been Michael Bay, but it could have been anybody, sitting around and they're like explaining what a terrorist is. And they're not picking up that they're saying that it's a bad thing.
Yeah.
And they're like, perfect idea for a movie. A really rich guy is funded to take down enemies of the United States government.
Outside the bounds of law, yeah.
See, but I'm thankful.
Bad.
I'm thankful that goes to
never
Netflix.
a moment. Yeah. There's never a moment when the movie is like, oh, but this is a bad thing. This is literally what like terrorists do. They get a bunch of funding. They get a really rich guy who pays to blow shit up. The movie's so unaware that but it's funny.
But it has a lose yourself line.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, so it's interesting because Netflix has gone a couple different ways with this, right? So you. With Six Underground, you pay Michael Bay to basically do his Michael Bay thing and make stuff blow up and do quick cuts.
It's the most Michael Bay ever, I think, because it's got probably more cuts than any other movie. A lot of people, I think, only made it through that first car chase scene at the beginning, which has got to have like 4,000 cuts. Like just to change gears in that car is like 20 cuts. It's
Zach
insane.
and I, we've talked about that. We definitely feel like, because Netflix gave Martin Scorsese 150 mil, and people would say that's the most Marty Scorsese's ever been.
Right.
I think Marriage Story, that's the most introspective. He literally has the line going, "I'm in my 20s. I could have had any woman I wanted." So yeah, and when they give Michael Bay the money, they're like, "Yo, this does not need to go to theaters. Going here." Just deliver the product. And he's like, I can do whatever I want.
The thing you want to do.
Yeah.
It's longer than it needs to be. All of both movies that you just mentioned, I haven't watched Marriage Story, but Martin Scorsese and
no.
Michael
I disagree.
Bay
The Irishman could have been twice as long, and I would have been there for
too
it.
long.
I would have been there right there at home. I would have seen it. Season 2 of the miniseries. I would have continued
movies
it.
where I would pause and say, how much longer do we have of this?
Kevin's still on episode 4 of The
Irishman.
Yeah.
Did you get to catch it, though? Extraction?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
I caught Extraction. Circling back to Extraction, this is the directorial debut of Sam Hargrave. He's taking over in that realm of like all these stunt performers or stunt coordinators we're seeing become action directors,
like Deadpool and the John Wicks and everything.
Exactly. He was the stunt coordinator on the last 2 Avengers movies. So it also makes sense that this movie is produced by the Russo brothers. I think it's actually written by Joe Russo, and it stars Chris Hemsworth, an Avenger himself. Hemsworth, taking another shot at the action star belt while outside of his Thor hammer and long locks, or I guess they're not long anymore in the Marvel's MCU. Yeah. He here plays a black market mercenary sent to India to sort of navigate his way through this war between these rival drug lords after one kidnaps the son of another. It is a particularly brutal action movie. Not to give away too much, but just the amount of like stabbings to the neck and like just gore, and there's a moment where they throw a child off of a roof. Like it's just a little bit. It hurts your heart to watch some of these moments, but it's hard hitting action in a way that a few action movies do. And then 35 minutes into the movie, they have this 12-minute one take. It's a Birdman style one take. There's a lot of like shifting the camera where you can tell, okay, they probably hit a cut there. But a 12-minute one take that goes from a car chase through the streets of Mumbai into a foot chase and hand-to-hand combat in these apartment buildings. It's a pretty epic sequence. Even if I didn't love all of it. Like there's certain moments that feel a little bit like you're just trying to string this all together. There are certain moments that are really electric, and it does make me think that Sam Hargrave, who again this is his first movie, probably has a good future as a director of compelling action. Just the hits are so hard in this movie. It's a little unsettling, but it's pretty exhilarating too.
Interesting. All right.
I thought I'd seen it, but I just saw the Bruce Willis one of the.
Oh yeah. Different extraction.
I wouldn't give this like.
Oh, sorry.
I wouldn't give this like a full-hearted recommendation, but definitely more positive than negative here. And if you're looking for like a somewhat fun but brutal action movie, you've got it on Netflix.
It looks good. I think I saw it on Netflix, and I didn't watch it because I thought it looked like the poster looks like the most generic movie ever.
Yeah,
like,
it's just him looking down.
Yeah, it looks like Jack Ryan or
the other Jack one,
movie.
Or the other Jack one.
Yeah, or the other one that Michael Bay did with Jack Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, I can't say that the plot necessarily was so distinctive that I can give you a breakdown of the characters and their backstories. Mm-hmm. The one thing I will give it is that the Indian setting felt somewhat fresh. You know, I think so many of these movies take place like in the Middle East or South America, and it's sort of all, like unnamed country, and just getting that variety of having the set in Mumbai was pretty cool. It felt a little bit different.
Cool. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah. So that's pretty much what we've been watching. Let us know what you've been watching in the comments down below, or by emailing us, intercutpod@gmail.com. We are going to move straight to our topic of the week, not wasting any time here, getting to our bracket of the best box office champ. What we did is we took the 32 films that finished number one in the box office over the past 32 years, and we put them into a tournament-style bracket to determine what movie we think is the best out of these box office champs. Just because you made a lot of money does not mean that your movie is very good. So we'll separate the ones that are just popular from the ones that are good too here. I don't know if you guys had any thoughts going into this. Like, do you feel like we'll have a pretty good correlation between good movies and box office champs?
Well, I'm curious to see what you guys are breaking it down by. I do think, since we're talking about box office champs, a big factor that I'm going into it is the movie going experience. Like, however many of these I was able to catch in the theaters and the whole theatrical run, how they handled that. But obviously quality as well. Like, just because a movie just because I know we have some Transformers on here, it does not mean it's going to be whatever it's going up against. But that's how I'm approaching it, because obviously it's our own personal bracket. I don't know how you guys are looking at it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there is a trend. There's some trends here that I'm sure we'll get into, but it definitely is not that they are the best movie of that year.
There's a little trend that goes when you get to big box office stuff. You notice that it's usually the repeats once a franchise starts that tend to get in there. But yep. And
a lot of money spent on them, so they needed to get a big return.
Not exactly a good bracket for independent film fans here. We're going to start actually with one of the biggest movies of all time, Avengers Endgame versus Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Are going from our newest movie on this list, the one that was the box office champ in 2019, to the oldest movie on this list, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. When I put Who Framed Roger Rabbit into this bracket, I was excited because this is a movie that I'm quite a big fan of. But
you like to do that.
Avengers is a big movie. I don't know, Kevin. What do you think here?
So this is based on opinion, right?
Of course.
Yes. Personal
or is
I don't want
based
anything else.
This is no contest for me.
Ooh.
Roger Rabbit wins every time.
Wow.
I love Roger Rabbit. I think it's even though it has a somewhat generic storyline, it's supposed to.
Yep.
And the ending, it falls apart a little bit. It gets a little silly, if you excuse the the pun, I guess. But like it gets a little. I wish it would have gone in a different direction. I thought it got a little too actually like superhero-y, where it's like, now we face off with the bad guy, the big bad guy. But like, the movie's so good. Just with the work that went into the animation of it, the fact that they were able to get. I mean, it was the biggest crossover of the time. You know,
this is the original extended cinematic universe.
You have Daffy Duck and Donald Duck playing piano against each other. Like, that was not something that happened. These two companies did not play well together, and the fact that they were able to pull that movie off and do what they did is so impressive. It's an artful film. It's well acted. It's really good. I'm not a huge fan. I love the Marvel movies, and then I'm like the only one, I guess, in the world who wasn't a huge fan of the final two.
Interesting.
I felt like they were so big. I felt like they attempted to take a lot of really good movies that had already established kind of their world, their rules of their world, and tried to put them together. And I don't feel like they meshed well because it made me feel like I don't really know what the rules are here in this world. You've got Black Panther, you've got Spider-Man, you've got Iron Man, all, and other ones as well, Guardians of the Galaxy, all very different movies. I felt, because I was a huge fan of Phase 1, but I felt like they all were in kind of the same
universe. But then you start getting into space, you got to start getting into other things.
It's a sci-fi world.
Yeah.
It's all sci-fi, and then I think it became a fantasy franchise more than a sci-fi franchise. And you can see that like in the trailer for these movies, they feel kind of like Lord of the Rings films more than they do Iron Man films. And so I wasn't a huge fan. I think that there's better Marvel movies than those, even though those are big. I also saw Endgame in a theater opening night, packed with huge Marvel fans.
The way you're supposed to see it?
Who would not shut up. Like when all the, they have that big sweeping shot where they all come out of the portals. It was just like, yeah.
It was exciting. It's 10 years in the making, which is why I'm going Avengers Endgame. Purely for the theatrical experience of it. But I agree with everything he says about Who Framed Roger Rabbit.
I hated the theatrical experience, but that's because I'm too old, I guess, now.
It's fair. But I do think Who Framed Roger Rabbit, to this day, like the whole marketing campaign, the stuff they did with McDonald's and everybody else, just that whole crossover that they did. It's interesting that we're comparing two big movies that, got these massive properties, like you said, be it in animation or be it over here with all these superheroes and combined stories that they did. Didn't mesh for everyone, but I'm surprised at not just the amount of money that it made, but like the entire theatrical run to this thing from Infinity War, leading up to what would be this, leaving everybody on a cliffhanger, I think was more of our modern day. I know you're comparing it to Lord of the Rings, but more Star Wars. Everyone in the MCU has been a fan of Star Wars, that they cut everyone's left hand for the entire Phase 1, almost to Phase 2. And I know that they've been wanting that big Episode 5 moment, and they got their snap. And I personally think Endgame delivered, but I also want to leave it to Zach to decide between the biggest movie of all time and one that I really do consider, I don't mind if it moves forward, one of the most creative features of all time.
I'm going Who Framed Roger Rabbit here.
That's fair.
Sorry.
That's fine. It's fine.
I love that movie. I love the style of it, just the blending of this like noir-y detective story with this cartoon world. It's just such a more unique property to me.
That's fair.
It's amazing. I know I already talked about it, but it's amazing how well the animation in that holds up.
Easily.
Because it is all hand-drawn, and if like you're a kid and you watch that, you'd have to explain to them that this isn't computer animation. Because it looks like it. That's how good it is. That's how detailed the shadowing and they must have done more frames than they normally do.
The making of is incredible. Highly recommend it if you haven't had the chance to see it.
Great.
All right, we're gonna move to our next matchup. This one is Finding Nemo versus Shrek 2. Art, where are you going?
Look, I'm a huge fan
matchup?
of Shrek 2. We talk about sequels. It goes Godfather, Shrek 2, Spider-Man 2. But I am gonna have to go Finding Nemo. It's one of my favorite Pixar movies of all time. The story still stands. Not the best sequel, which I think we may be covering because it also did pretty well. A lot of people, it's got a fan base that followed it. But compared to Shrek 2, which I also really, really, really do love, it just has it's an everlasting story, in my opinion. I think the animations that they did back in 2003 still stand to this day, even compared to a bunch of the Pixar films coming out now. So it's Finding Nemo all the way for me.
Kevin?
This is a tough one. This one's way tougher than the last one. Because, Shrek 2's really funny.
It's hilarious.
It's a funny movie. But so is Finding Nemo.
I had an hour deliberation, a whole hour just briefing this before the podcast.
Finding Nemo is a better film if we're going to talk about, like, if I'm going to be pretentious about it. Yes, it's got a joke about a boat that they call it a butt, which is a little lowbrow for that movie, I think. But Shrek can go as lowbrow as you want because that's the whole point. And it's got a lot of heart. But I think I've got to go with Finding Nemo.
Woo! But Shrek is great. Yep. The things that Shrek and Shrek 2 got away with is ridiculous.
It was a different time.
Back then, yeah.
Yeah.
And also, we've got an original versus a sequel here, and I tend to lean towards the original.
Yeah, that is something that I know I'm going to carry with a lot of these. But let's go. Third one.
All right. Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 versus Independence Day, the Will Smith fighting aliens blockbuster. Kevin, which way you leaning?
Easy Independence Day.
Same.
Yeah.
I don't know how much you want to talk about each one of these. I'll just say that I used to say Independence Day was my favorite movie. Like, for a long time, I had that as, you got to have an answer sometimes when you talk about movies.
Okay.
I don't have an answer anymore because I've seen, but there was a time when I would have said, Independence Day is my favorite movie because it's got so much in it.
Yeah.
It's like, it kind of, it started the, disaster movie. Like, there were other ones, but like it really, and at the time, like I love sci-fi stuff. I love, and Will Smith was pretty new, and he's so funny in that, and so is, the Jurassic Park guy.
Goldblum.
Yeah, it sets a lot of these cliches up.
Totally.
It does.
And obviously Jurassic Park does that too, where you got Goldblum, and he's like, I'm the only one who knows that all of this is a bad idea.
Yeah.
But that's fine. It is what it's supposed to be. And I think after watching the new one,
Resurgence was trash.
It reminded me of how good the original one is. It's it's well written. It's a over the top schlocky blockbuster is exactly how it should be. But it is an original also.
Yeah,
so.
I mean, it's over the top, like you said, but it doesn't really get so cheesy the way that some blockbusters do. Like, it's still,
but yet it's funny. Oh,
it's a lot of fun, definitely, and like you said with Will Smith, like that's kind of the thing that launches him in a way into these blockbuster movies. So I think that's an easy vote for Independence Day.
And I never saw the last Harry Potter movie, so
makes that a little bit easier too. But yeah, I feel like the Deathly Hallows ended up being underwhelming for a lot of people.
Yeah, so. I'm also a bigger fan of 1. I like the emotional stakes in 1, surprisingly, compared to the other one, to the sequel.
Our next matchup is Batman Forever versus the Avengers. Art, which way you going?
All right, now I do love the early Batman ones, and I know that there's a couple of times that it comes up over here. Batman Forever is great, but I'm going to have to go Avengers. I think the first Avengers is what everybody tried to mimic. Every studio. Universal tried bringing its monsters and making it Avengers. DC tried just literally copying, and they still trying to figure out where they're going from there. I think it was a monumental achievement what they did. I think they've gotten better since then as well, so I'm going Avengers.
Kevin?
Agreed. I like the original Batmans. I don't love the Schumacher Batmans, and I know I get it that it's supposed to be a callback to the old
the schlock, bro,
stuff, but I like Forever much more than I like Batman and Robin.
I agree. I agree.
Forever has some great performances. Jim Carrey knocks it out of the park, and but like I said, the first Avengers, I think, like you mentioned, the theater-going experience. Like, I remember and I think I talked about this. I did a Batman v Superman review, and I talked about how in the 90s there was rumors of a Batman-Superman crossover movie. And I remember my dad mentioning that and me saying, so is it going to be like, the Batmans that the Batman and Superman, Christopher Reeves and Michael Keaton, and he's like, nah, they'll probably get cheaper people to be in it or something. Like, just kind of offhand mentioned that, and my heart sank. And so when I heard that they were gonna, because it was when Iron Man came out, they announced we're gonna make a bunch of these and maybe do a crossover thing, and they've been crossing over so much in the comics and in the animated series and those types of things, that the idea of not only them doing a crossover but using the real actors,
right,
and then to go see it, and not only did they do it, I remember seeing the trailer and thinking, oh, the special effects don't look cheap. I thought that they would go cheap on it, because it's like, well, we got to do all, and they didn't go cheap. And not only did they not go cheap with the special effects, but they didn't go cheap with the story. It was really cool to see how they were able to. I'm a huge fan of characters, characters, and so character focused stuff really is interesting to me. And the way that they looked at how these characters would act, and they put them in these scenarios and had them play off of each other based on their real personalities that are in the other movies, was really cool. It didn't, because you see these crossover episodes. I remember TGIF would do it all the time, where Steve Urkel would end up on another show,
right,
and there would be something different about it, because obviously it would be a different director or showrunner or something.
I know it as the Disney ones, the Hannah Montana, Sweet Life on Deck type stuff. Exactly. You're trying to fit the other show's tone. There's some similarities, but someone has to sacrifice.
Yeah, and so that's what I was expecting with the Avengers, and the fact that they pulled it off so well was just amazing. It had never happened like that before, and I don't feel like it's ever happened like that again.
True,
but it was awesome. It was really cool, and I still to this day think that that's a movie that holds up really well. So there you have it.
All right, so Avengers is advancing. The next one is Jurassic World versus Batman Returns. Ooh. I know you said you didn't like the Schumacher one so much. Don't know how you feel about the Burton movies.
I love the Tim Burton Batman movies.
There you go.
Yeah, they're great.
So this feels like a pretty easy one. I don't know if there's any Jurassic World fans on this podcast.
It's fine,
I actually... I'm just kidding. No.
I think Jurassic World is definitely just a movie.
It is.
Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace versus The Dark Knight.
This one's real easy.
Yeah. I think
Star
that's
Wars for sure.
It's
just the way Liam Neeson is in that movie.
Liam Neeson. Bro, I was rewatching the trailers to all of these just to be like, maybe it'll change my mind. I may not be able to rewatch all of them, but maybe the trailer. No. Oh, no. It did not.
I probably rewatch this movie every 3 years.
Why?
I don't know why. I just end up. Well, my wife had never seen them, so I had to watch them, show her. I don't know. There is a nostalgic aspect to the Phantom Menace that is fun, and it's fun to laugh at, and it's so fun to look and think oh, it really is this bad. This is terrible.
There's a difference between nostalgic value and actual quality.
But it's crazy to think. Highest grossing of that year. Nothing else came close. Power of nostalgia.
I mean, it was the first Star Wars movie
in a long time. Yeah.
30 years at that point, something like that. So
people, it's so funny to see those interviews. I think there's a montage of them in People versus George Lucas. And it's pretty funny to see the delusional people coming out of that movie.
Saying that they liked it.
Oh, it was great. I've seen it 400 times already. Yeah.
The next matchup is Spider-Man 3 versus How the Grinch Stole Christmas.
Oh, can I mention something?
What's up?
Sure.
Oh, good. I think because when you review a movie, there is a level to which when you review a movie, it's easier to be negative about it. And I think the Phantom Menace created that in people, because people are scared of being that person who's in the interview saying it's great, and then realizing later that it's not so great.
Could be, because when you think about it, that movie in and of itself created how many videos of that nature that pretty much spawned the idea of just criticizing an entire movie or breakdown. Granted,
but it's safer to criticize it
I agree
Yeah.
with what you mean. That psychology of you not wanting to be the reviewer who looks back and goes, oh.
Oh, I was wrong. But what I've just ended up doing is saying what I think about movies and don't care what people
It
think.
usually works.
Yeah, but there is that fear of people also saying that you're a shill. So
Are you saying this because Spider-Man 3 is your favorite out of the trilogy and you're picking it over?
Yeah, obviously.
Who starts off on this one?
Art, why don't you start us?
All right, between Spider-Man 3, which I think has lasted like out of the three, the first one is beloved, the second one is one of my personal favorite superhero movies, but the third one has a cult fan base like no other. They have re-edited this movie for themselves. They have found versions of it that they're like, the theming is better here. All these like secret clips that have never arisen from it. Like, they will not let this franchise die. People want to see a fourth because of what had happened with the third one. It's insane. I remember that this movie was so big. Films were coming out. Like, I think it was I Love You, Man. If it wasn't that, it was Knocked Up, where they were like, you went to go see Spider-Man 3 without... Like, the joke was timed because that comedy came out the same week that Spider-Man came out. Everyone was... like, that was recorded months ago. Everyone was banking on that being, like, the biggest movie. And it was.
It's Knocked Up.
How the Grinch Stole Christmas. I think it's a better film.
Kevin?
This is a really tough one because I don't love either one.
Same.
Yeah.
I think this might be one of Ron Howard's worst movies.
Fair.
That's fair. He's done some good stuff.
I don't know. I think
Spider-Man
I'm gonna
3
go
has good
Spider-Man
memes.
3
For the memes?
because
The choreography.
the dancing,
That's what
the
does it.
emo hair. Because I was like, it's like my hair at this moment in time.
So that leaves it to you,
I
Zach.
think I'd go with Spider-Man 3 just because probably if I was on a desert island and I had to choose between these two, I'd pick to watch Spider-Man 3.
Oh, that's fair.
I'm even when I'm not super enjoying a movie, I can take some pleasure from just the rubbery nature of Jim Carrey's physical comedy. He's such a unique and gifted performer. I think I'm going to go with that one. So,
yeah, but who's
How the
more
Grinch-
rubbery? Spider-Man flinging through the air?
A little bit.
One of them's like actually rubbery though.
I guess.
Bro,
you're
I
right.
had rewatched it, the Jim Carrey version, because last year we had the one that Tyler, the creator, did the soundtrack for.
Yeah.
And how drastic we've come from making movies, like how to, because this was still the time when we had The Cat in the Hat. We are not doing. I'm still appreciative of the moment when studios realized we got to stop doing these Dr. Seuss live action movies. Move them all to Illumination.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
Yeah.
I find the makeup pretty off-putting. So
I find it
that's probably
hilarious.
Yeah,
that's
it's
one of my
hard
go-to
to
jokes. The
look
live
at.
action, because they look like pajama pants. It works in the
Yeah.
animations, but in real life, it is I think it's the craziest thing.
It's weird.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but it's all prosthetics. Like it's
Yeah, and the
it
noses
is a
too for the
time.
Whoville people. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, whichever one of these movies advanced was probably not going to be long
next
for this
one.
competition.
Yeah.
Anyway, the next competition is Terminator 2 versus Finding Dory. Kevin, pretty sure this is going to be an easy pick.
Yeah. Finding Dory, of course.
All the way.
Terminator 2, obviously.
Same.
Yeah.
I never actually saw Finding Dory, so maybe it's
Oh.
great. Maybe it's a hidden gem, but it didn't interest me.
You're good.
It seems like
Yeah.
just seeing the trailers, it seems to miss the whole point of who Dory is and what Finding Nemo was about. And so Terminator 2 doesn't miss the point and is great. It's a fantastic film.
Yeah, and it's
Agreed.
a James Cameron action movie. I mean,
Yeah.
there's a certain floor of quality there that's higher than most movies.
I know that I can't go on a rant about every one of these movies, but what's the point? Terminator is so genius because
It is.
it's hard to do a sequel that doesn't just rehash the last one.
Mm-hmm.
And this doesn't do that. I mean, of course, it's somebody from the future, but to take the bad guy
The way
from
it
the
flips it is
last
smart.
movie and turn him into the father figure in the next movie is genius.
It's only Jimmy,
really,
bro. What did Jimmy say about
who
Aliens?
thinks to do that?
He said we need a sequel because the money's side. Comes to Terminator, it's the same thing. Titanic, turn of the century. Everyone's scared about dying. Let's release Titanic, highest grossing movie. He waits for Avatar, waits for the dollar to be low or to be high overseas. Boom, highest grossing movie. I have a theory that Jimmy Cameron is just waiting for theaters to open up. He's going to have Avatar ready by then, Avatar 2, and it's going to be the highest grossing movie of all time when all of this is over. Jimmy just always knows.
Yeah, it's so weird because that Avatar 2 sounds like a Lucas move.
Exactly.
To want to release that. I mean, of course, it worked with Star Wars, but it just sounds like the move of a crazy man. But yet,
I want to create my play box and just play with it. Yeah.
But it is James Cameron who has, for most of my life, had some of the highest grossing movies and the highest grossing movie with Titanic and Avatar. So.
We're halfway through the first round here. Might have to speed up a little bit.
Okay, fine.
But we're going to Star Wars: The Last Jedi versus Ghost.
That was the highest.
Kevin, have you ever taken a pottery class with Ghost?
Yeah. I know that scene. I've never seen the movie. And either way, I probably would go with Star Wars.
Yeah, Last Jedi to me is the best of the new trilogy, so I'm there with you, Art.
I'm picking Ghost, but I mean I'm fine with it being the other one either way. I was just rewatching the trailer to Ghost. I think that's it's a crazy movie for its time. Like if we were to do this bracket, because I know we went back 32. If we were to do it the other 32, like previous to that, it changes everything we've been saying here, which is you can find the moment where franchises started to become the highest grossing as opposed to original properties like Ghost, or I would even say Who Framed Roger Rabbit. I don't want to spoil some of the other ones upcoming, but yeah.
Ghost you think Ghost is that turning point?
No. But I'm saying from Ghost, definitely beforehand, I think you're seeing way less sequels as opposed to everything after. Because Ghost is 80s, right? Or is it 70s?
Yeah.
80s, right?
It's 80s.
I think it was 1990.
Oh, even more so. Yeah, because from the 90s, the 90s started creating everything that would get its sequel in the 2000s. Crazy enough.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, Ghost is one of the few movies on this list that if they had just made it today, I feel like it has no chance to get to the top of the box office.
And that's that's the saddest.
These Batman movies and Transformers movies and stuff, they still have a chance.
Well,
I was really surprised to see it on this list.
Yeah. To think that one year that was the highest grossing movie.
Yeah.
But where was the boat that sank? Where was the explosions? Yeah.
Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone versus Pirates of the Caribbean: Dead Man's Chest.
The chest
Art, which way
one.
you going?
I'm going Harry Potter. How about you guys?
Ooh. I'm going. This is the first Pirates of the Caribbean.
No.
Or is that
Second.
That was the Curse of the Black Pearl.
If it was Curse, it would no problem. But I'm not that big a fan of the pirate sequels. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, because the first one blew my mind. It was like, it was probably the one that I changed my mind about Independence Day. I probably would say that was my favorite movie of all time. The first Pirates of the Caribbean. Yeah. So I don't know. I have no answer for this.
That's fine.
I'll go Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone here to make that 2-0.
Okay, good. Thank you. I have seen that one, and I did like it.
That's fine.
The introduction to the franchise.
No, you know what? No, this is unacceptable.
Continuation.
I expect a 20-minute speech for every movie in the first round. How dare you not have one for Harry Potter or Pirates?
Oh, man.
Let's see if you got one for Transformers 2 Revenge of the Fallen versus Titanic.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I love seeing robot testicles hanging down in my face.
Was that the second one?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man.
This movie, until the third one came out, James, you
were saying that this was your favorite movie?
Yeah. And subsequently, every Transformers movie becomes my favorite movie. This movie, they claimed, was bad because of the writer's strike of 2008 or 2009.
You don't believe
until the third one came out, and then so what's this excuse? What's the excuse for this one? It was so bad. I always said that in the first Transformers movie, there's this joke where the parents knock on Witwicky's door, and they're like, "Are you masturbating in there?" And it was dumb and embarrassing, and I'm like, "Why is that joke in there?" But that was like the only dirty joke in the movie, and they were like, we got a good laugh out of that joke. Let's do it in the whole movie. And it was just constant, you've got the stereotype robots, you've got testicles
on robots,
for no reason.
The sexualized girlfriend who ends up being the robot. She does all that stuff with the tongue at the beginning.
I think
that's... Or is that the third one?
The third one, yeah.
Oh, because
I know my Transformers movies.
I am going to get the speech. Is it?
No, because I was really
What was Megan
excited
Fox's
about
last one then?
The second one.
The second one.
So then from the third one is when they replaced her with the other robot then?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, you're right. The second one I was really excited about because I liked the first one.
Same.
I enjoyed it. It was fun. A lot of the reasons I liked Independence Day. And so I was excited to see it, and I went with like a group of friends because we're going to go see this. And I remember because
never talked to you again.
And I've never seen any of those friends again because I was excited. And I said it was good when I came out of the theater, and now I'm embarrassed because the internet told me I'm not supposed to like the movie. No, I was so put off by it. I'm like, this is terrible.
Yeah.
There's nothing redeeming about this movie. So anyway, Titanic, great movie.
Titanic is fantastic, dude. It is very rare.
Yeah.
I still remember having my Titanic 2 VHS thing because that thing was so massive. You
I remember.
needed to swap them out. Kids these days won't remember that. The second part of Titanic,
They have it too easy.
You have it too easy, man. But yeah, no, Titanic definitely. And I'm sure we'll say more when it comes to the next ones.
Yeah. It was never going to be Transformers 2, guys. Sorry. Jurassic Park versus Guardians of the Galaxy. Art, do you have a preference?
Yeah, very simple. I do think Guardians of the Galaxy is one of the best sci-fi movies of recent age. I loved it when I saw it. Seeing it with everyone, like the kids, it was like they were watching their first Star Wars. Like the way that the parents were looking at the kids just light up when they saw that space adventure. But nothing compares to play the song. If we weren't gonna get copyrighted and I'd play the song right now, we would move on to the next round. That's how iconic that the first one is.
Kevin?
Yeah, agreed. It's such a good movie for the same reason I think Roger Rabbit is good. One of the reasons is just the innovation, the time and energy put into making it look good and work. They nothing they've done since in terms of CGI has had the time and energy and effort put into it because they were scared it wouldn't work. And so
the dinosaurs look better in this movie than they do in Jurassic World.
And a lot of it also is because they did a mixture of two. And I think the Nostalgia Critic has a video where he talks about the history of CGI and stuff and does a lot of focus on this movie because they took, they didn't have models and they didn't have things from before to just put into a computer and say, okay, well, there's light from there. They actually had to take measurements of all the light coming from everywhere and then recreate that in the computer and stuff. But it doesn't feel like a gimmick. It's a exciting, fun. A guy gets eaten by off the toilet. That was always hilarious when I was a kid. There's plenty of poop jokes, which I love. And great movie.
Agreed.
Guardians of the Galaxy is great. It's a great movie, but it's not
nowhere near the level. Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy is a lot of fun. I honestly might give it my vote, but the
doesn't matter.
Gone Jurassic Park, so I basically am just an empty voice here.
That's what he's saying right now. If he would have gotten second or first, guarantee he wouldn't be saying that. He would have stuck with Jurassic.
Iron Man 3 versus The Lion King. I think Iron Man 3 gets a little bit underrated among them, but
I agree.
The Lion King? Kevin, what do you think?
There's no competition. The Lion King.
Yeah.
I love that movie. Iron Man 3 is fine. I actually think that it's overrated.
How so?
Really?
I think that Iron Man 2 is underrated.
Yo, it was nice having you on the podcast. For those of you who want to know the
you're welcome.
How so?
Yeah, it's fun. I think Iron Man 2 is a fun movie. If you watch it without expecting it to be a blockbuster
or a movie,
I really enjoy it.
Agreed.
Iron Man 3, I can't stand the bad guys. Like it's very cartoony. Like, and then Pepper Potts getting the power and him being like, "You're hot" or whatever. Like the stupid lines.
Yeah.
not a
I
fan
haven't
of the
watched
Shane
it in
Black
a long time.
quibbiness.
I'm just thinking back as how I felt when I saw it in theaters, which was not too long ago. Maybe 7 years ago.
To me,
I mean, neither of those movies would beat The Lion King.
Easily, yeah. I mean, it's not beating The Lion King at all. I think the worst thing Iron Man 3
But Iron
has.
Man 2, I actually, because I like
Favreau?
I would know his name. I like the guy from Moon.
Sam Rockwell.
Sam Rockwell.
Who they
And
should
I
still be
think
bringing
he's-
back.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, it's true. That's true.
I will give you
I
that.
think-
Your comments about the 2, I think in a couple of years when they bring back Sam Rockwell, you're not going to be a minority voice when it comes to those defending the second one.
Oh, yeah. That
So
makes
hop
a lot
on
of
that
sense.
train, market it, get all the merch ready.
See, I didn't like it in theaters, and then I watched it when because it was on Netflix really early, and I watched it one Sunday afternoon, and I was like, this isn't that bad of a movie. I like the whip guy.
Yeah, Whiplash. See the movie always appears because every time I search Whiplash, he appears before the actual movie called Whiplash. It makes no sense to me. So I'm always
now
being onto
Whiplash
that.
is a better movie than any of these, but
easily The Lion King.
Okay.
Men in Black versus Avatar. Art, which way are you going?
I'm okay with Avatar winning, but I can't say Men in Black. I have to say Men in Black. I can't not say Men in Black. But go ahead, pick Avatar.
Kevin?
Oh, I will not. I will pick Men in Black for
Oh!
sure. I'm not a huge fan of Avatar.
This early?
It's a bad movie. It's just like I know everybody's like it's the same as Ferd Gully and Pocahontas, but
think
it
it's a great
is.
movie.
It's so derivative, and I just didn't bring anything. I saw it in 3D
The
glasses
whole shebang, yeah.
in the IMAX. I gave him all my money, but people were going on about how great it was, and I just didn't see it. Maybe I haven't seen it since theater, so maybe it's better than I remember. But it just felt like cliches.
I don't think it is.
I never liked I'm the military guy, and I will stop at nothing to murder all these Indians. Like I just it's over the top, goofy, and the premise of it reminded me of that Bruce Willis movie where they have the bodies that they live inside.
Surrogates?
And
Yeah.
that kind of thing. I don't know. It's weird to me.
You know what's crazy talking
Things
about?
can be weird, but I just don't find it interesting that you're not actually there. You're just playing a video game.
And that's been like the biggest thing. I think Avatar was not because Lord of the Rings did this, but we were talking about how movies that are like huge blockbusters that do the box office, we tend to see people mimic them later on. And I think this was a big turning point of saying, hey, you can put name actors and not have them appear. They can be completely CGI or covered in makeup and stuff like that. So we were usually seeing a lot of makeup covered people from the X-Men movies and a bunch of stuff. But that idea of
The Grinch.
Yeah, exactly. That you could just be in everything that we have now. Most of our superheroes are not appearing or stuff is CGI. Alita. Like, you know, she's just... we are now putting our main actors covered completely in dots. And when your highest grossing movie is doing that, and they're just random blue people who are having sex with their tails...
I think you're forgetting about the Final Fantasy movie, Spirit Within.
The box office hit Final Fantasy: The Spirit Within.
Never seen it.
All CGI. Very mind-blowing at the time.
If that would have done the numbers of Avatar, I'm sure.
But Men in Black's great.
Exactly. I love Men in Black.
I love probably every Will Smith movie up until the middle of Hancock. That's when I hate every Will Smith movie.
Was Men in Black your favorite movie until Independence Day?
No, it wasn't my favorite, but I love that movie. You know what the difference is between Will Smith then and Will Smith now? Will Smith then makes that stuff look good.
Yeah.
Well,
I love Men in
There's
Black.
just more style and more personality in Men in Black than Avatar, which I think ultimately is the deciding factor for me. Star Wars Episode 3: Revenge of the Sith versus the original Spider-Man. Kevin, I think we can make this one a quick one, right?
Yeah. Spider-Man is my answer. Yes.
Same with me.
Spider-Man.
And then our last movie...
Though I will say... No, I'm just kidding.
Our last movie matchup of the first round, Batman 1989 versus Black Panther. Art, which way are you going?
Love Batman. Love Tim Burton's whole tone, aesthetic, but I got to go
Bing.
Black Panther.
I'm going Batman because I'm a racist.
I'm going to go Black Panther as well. I'm just not super into the Tim Burton aesthetic. And, I mean, there's just a few, like, small stylistic things that will make me choose Black Panther above most comic book movies. But I'm also not the audience for most comic book movies. So we're going to go Black Panther there. That brings us into our second round. Talking about movies we've already talked about. So, Who Framed Roger Rabbit versus Finding Nemo?
You skipped over my speech.
Which one?
Batman 1989.
Say It's Farewell.
I was allowed to watch that as a kid, and I have no idea why, because it's pretty intense at moments for children. And I always hated the moments where Batman wasn't Batman, like he was just in his normal clothes. I just like so there's so much nostalgia for me in that's why
the Prince
I like
soundtrack
that.
and everything.
Yeah. Oh man. And they carried that over to the animated series, and so I mean it was Batman for a long time. Was that aesthetic in the video games and in the animated series and that stuff? So, all right.
Yeah,
and Black
Panther's sure you won't be the only.
It's just not my favorite.
Yeah, I'm sure you won't be the only person writing for that Batman movie. But then, getting into the second round.
Yes.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit versus Finding Nemo? Kevin, do you have a preference on the two?
I'm going to go with Finding Nemo because that's the one,
Same.
even though I think that Roger Rabbit is probably maybe a more artful film. I think if I was, for some reason, my rating system is if I was stuck on a desert island and could only watch these movies.
Yeah.
So I'm going with Finding Nemo. I could watch that so many times.
Yep, always Finding Nemo for me, easily.
Yeah, you voted it our best Pixar movie, so I'm not surprised here. I'm going to go Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Again, like the argument I made last round, I do feel like Roger Rabbit is such a unique type of movie. You know, you don't see this mashup of genres and styles much, but I've been outvoted. Finding Nemo wins the next matchup.
You're forgetting about Space Jam, okay?
And finding Space Jam and Who Framed Roger Rabbit. What else are you getting like this?
Yeah, I know. That other one with the
two best movies of all time.
Brendan Fraser.
Oh, right. Yeah, we don't talk about Monkey Bone on Intercut.
No. I'm talking about the Looney Tunes one.
Oh, right.
Looney Tunes Unleashed
with Steve
or something.
Martin and stuff, right?
Yeah.
And,
anyway,
yeah.
Sorry.
Did not watch that one.
Another tangent of mine.
Our next matchup is Independence Day versus the Avengers. Kevin, are you going to go against your one-time favorite movie?
I think I might. This is not an easy one to pick because I do like Independence Day, and I could still watch that movie over and over. But Avengers, I think, just for what it is as a cinematic accomplishment and an enjoyable film, I think I have to go with Avengers.
Wow. Art.
I have to go Independence Day. Not that I wouldn't pick Avengers on Another Day, but they both did something similar. Roland Emmerich ended up creating the disaster movie that to this day gets copied. Avengers created the franchise Universal Cinematic Universe cinematics that everybody wants to do. I'm sticking with Independence Day. I think it has. I think it's held the test of time a little bit more, and I am wondering if I think Avengers has aged a little bit, just a little bit.
Yeah. When I went back and watched Avengers, I found it to be less quippy and fun than I remember it being.
They changed their humor. He's right. They changed their humor to be a little bit more snarky in the latter Avengers, which is what we're more used to now.
You know what's funny? Carmen and I watched. I'm sorry. That's the only time I get to watch things is if I have to wait till my wife is ready to watch it, that I get to watch it. But we were watching Deadpool, the original one.
Yeah.
And that movie has less snark than like the newer Avengers movies do because it's gotten so quippy and snarky that it's and self-aware
and they're
that
3
it's
hours
almost
long.
like it's almost quaint.
Yeah,
to see Deadpool doing it because it's not really that gimmicky now because it's now every movie
self-aware
does
now.
It. Yeah.
So that means you're picking Independence Day or you're picking Avengers?
I'm still picking Independence. Oh, you're not talking to me. I already made my pick.
Yeah, I don't think you've changed your mind. What about you, Zach?
Yeah, I'm going Independence Day. So
wow.
We're saving your favorite movie for
We're
you.
saving
Thank
it.
you.
Batman Returns versus The Dark Knight. The showdown between different Batman films. I mean, is anybody really gonna go against The Dark Knight?
I'm going
No.
Dark Knight. Dark Knight.
Dark Knight's great.
Yeah. How the Grinch Stole Christmas versus Terminator 2.
Keep it going.
Yeah, I think we can keep this train rolling. Star Wars Episode 8, The Last Jedi versus Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Art, did you have a feeling either way?
Harry Potter, because they didn't make a sequel that just told everybody that all the themes and stuff from there don't matter. I have to.
But we're talking about The Last Jedi, not The Rise
No,
of
but
Skywalker.
Last Jedi doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, it doesn't matter anymore.
In universe.
But to say it even does, you're right. Let's judge it by both movies. I would still pick Harry Potter.
Interesting.
Same, Kevin?
Yeah, no.
What's
Last Jedi. I really do like Last Jedi as a movie. And
Same.
Is it favorite out of 3?
Maybe.
The new 3.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I did not like Rise of Skywalker. I just
They didn't like. The
felt-
people who made it didn't like it. Like.
yeah. But I really liked the first Abrams.
I did.
whatever that one
I
was
do
called.
like Force Awakens. Yeah.
But I like
nostalgic
it,
as it is.
probably a lot for the same reasons I like Avengers, for kind of the cinematic accomplishment and the feeling it was to see the real Star Wars and the aesthetic of it again on screen.
That's fair.
And it's a fun movie.
Yeah, that's how I feel about The Last Jedi. I feel like it did have some of that magic of visiting a galaxy far, far away. And Harry Potter, for me, part of the enjoyment was the kind of growing old with them and getting more mature as they got more mature. In the beginning, it's still not quite as complex, but it's fun. But I'll go Last Jedi as well. Titanic versus Jurassic Park. Kevin, which
I
way
would
are you
like to
leaning?
see that movie.
Titanic versus Jurassic Park.
Titanic versus Jurassic Park.
The sequel.
So is this the dinosaurs are on the boat?
Yes.
The park is on the
They're
boat.
the glacier.
And it's headed towards an iceberg.
Yeah.
And then they hit a glacier. There's no the dinosaurs never eat anything. They're just drowning.
That was the Ice Age.
What is it? Titanic versus Jurassic Park. I just it's a dude's movie more than Titanic
Yeah.
is, and
We're dudes.
we're dudes.
Yeah. Art.
Jurassic Park. I think when you watch Jurassic Park, if anybody ever gets the chance to see those re-releases they do in IMAX, it's better than stuff playing in IMAX now. It's
Wow.
insane.
Yeah.
Like, that's how much it holds up. What he was saying, nothing against Titanic. This is really just comes down to preference. Titanic is, I know we're dudes. My brother was on this. Titanic is his favorite movie. People love Titanic, so it's fair. But Jurassic
Yeah.
Park, to go off of what he was saying earlier, they spared no expense.
Yeah.
They not to get too technical in it, but when they do the stuff with the grass, like a lot of the things that they were telling him was like, "Yo, let's just keep." They were telling Spielberg, "Let's just keep the grass motionless, and so we can focus on everything on your animals." And he's like, "No, if there's wind hitting the animals, then it needs to hit the grass as well." And he's like, "That's going to cost so much more." He said, "Let's go,"
That's
and that's why I got to
pretty
continue
wild.
it out over
Yeah.
here. Very detailed.
Next matchup, Lion King versus Men in Black. Kevin?
Lion King.
Same.
Yeah.
Same.
Yeah, I mean it's a tale as old as time, right? You know, it's a Hamlet with lions.
Dude. It's the highest grossing animated film almost twice. the
Yeah.
last one, yeah.
Yeah. So I think that's an easy one. Last matchup of the second round is Spider-Man versus Black Panther. Art, which way do you lean?
I really like Spider-Man.
Yeah.
But if it was Spider-Man 2, it would be no contest. To me, Spider-Man and Black Panther are almost tied for me. So going off of the theatrical experience, again, just more personal, I'm going Black Panther.
Kevin?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna go Spider-Man.
That's fair.
It's got more. It gives me more feels. Even though rewatching that movie, there's a lot of weird stuff in it.
There is.
A lot of
Very early
Raimi.
2000s, yeah. And Sam
Yeah.
Raimi doing
Just
what he
a
does.
lot of fisheye lenses. He's gonna rip your legs off.
But even then, out of the three, right? The three times that we've seen his origin story redone, I don't think anything's surpassed the first one. Just the way that they tell it on
Yeah,
screen.
I think the only thing I like maybe more would be the Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah.
I
That's fair.
think if there was a a chart, it would be tough for me to pick between those two.
I'm going Spider-Man as
Really?
well.
Okay.
Maybe it's nostalgia, but that just feels like what a comic book movie should feel like to me. Finding Nemo versus Independence Day in the start of the third round. Art, which way? Nemo. Kevin?
Yeah, I think so as well.
Wouldn't it be funny if he picked Independence Day after saying it for the other one?
You know what? Now that it comes down to this. No, I mean,
Resurgence.
Pixar, I love this was still part of Pixar constant hits.
The note card that they said that they did. The napkin with all the original ideas.
And it hits hard. It's a good movie. And
back when Pixar was Pixar.
Independence Day is a fun movie, but so is Finding Nemo.
It's masterpiece.
So many quotable lines and just really well done. And they invented a new way to do animation so they could have the people under the water. I don't know why every time it's like the technical aspect, but like these technical marvels that feel so flawless.
Yeah.
You know, I love it. It's not. That's maybe why I don't love Avatar, because it's like, this is spectacle and love it and worship it.
But
fair. Like these movies that pull it off so effortlessly, but you know, so much went into it. I love that.
The technical part of it is what helps uplift the story and make it memorable. Because sometimes you have these stories that's like, man, the story's so good. I wish the budget was better because people may not give it the time. Like Primer, one of the best time travel movies of all time, but it looks like Primer, so no one wants to see it. But when you have that technical achievement, I think it really it holds the test of time for sure.
All right, The Dark Knight versus Terminator 2. Kevin, which one are you going to side with here?
Oh man, that's this is this how it always goes?
I gave you the tough one.
Yes.
It's harder and harder. Like, now I'm choosing between children.
Yep.
I love Terminator movies, every single one of them. Even Salvation. I think I like Salvation because it came out the same year as Transformers 2, and I wasn't expecting to like a Terminator movie more than Transformers in that era, and I did. But this isn't
Shouts
about that
Christian
movie.
Bale.
The Terminator 2. No, because I'm going up against Dark Knight, aren't I?
Yep. Two very iconic movies with very iconic imagery and villains.
Let's go with Dark Knight because that's my generation.
Totally.
Terminator 2 came out when I was
That's our generation.
Yeah. That's what I mean. Like, Terminator 2 is for, older people. I didn't see that one in theaters.
I would also go Dark Knight, not to take away from the older generation. You guys made great movies back in the day.
No, I hate old people.
But The Dark Knight, I'm going to let you finish, but The Dark Knight, I think definitely tested It changed the Oscars stuff. Oscars were always like 5 movies for so long, and then The Reader came out, it stole the spot, and so many people argued. They switched the rules faster than they did for Oscars So White. They said, all right, we get it, you want The Dark Knight. We'll make more changes for that faster than they do for anything else. And to this day, people still argue that The Dark Knight should have gotten the nomination, should have gotten the win, and it inspires so many film students. From every aspect on how to shoot a movie, shoot it dark, how to write characters, do it like Nolan does, make it gritty, make it this, and to the score, everything had. If it wasn't a Nolan soundtrack from one of his other movies, it was my trailer needs a bomb, and every trailer had that for the longest time coming. Of course, Terminator had these effects too when it came out to the second one, and everyone wanting to have that success of a sequel blockbuster, which I think Dark Knight itself owes a lot to, along with Heat and everything else. But my personal pick is Dark Knight. Yuzek?
Yeah. I would go with Dark Knight as well. I mean, you look at just the press cycle that the Joker movie has been on, and none of that, I think, would have happened without Heath Ledger's performance, kind of paving the way into prestige for these comic book movies. It's kind of the Dark Knight brought populist entertainment into the like art world, into the award circuit. Yeah. So I'll go with that one. It's also just one that I actually remember being in the theater for. So.
Dude, I was going to Mexico because we made trips to Mexico all the time. We're at the border at Laredo, and I was like, I need to watch this movie. I get to watch it. Get to Mexico. This thing was already bootlegged. I was like, what? What? How? They work fast, man. All right.
Yeah. The Last Jedi versus Jurassic Park. I feel like this one's going to be pretty easy. Kevin?
I don't know why you think that's so easy.
Ooh,
I like both movies. I think Jurassic Park is... I really do like Last Jedi.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I think Jurassic Park is a classic, and so I have to go with Jurassic Park.
Same.
I don't know that Last Jedi will ever be necessarily considered a classic, and it's a sequel. It's in an established franchise. Mm-hmm. Jurassic Park was wholly new, and I like that.
To give it,
that's ultimately why I said that. It's just like Jurassic Park is its own thing, whereas Last Jedi is part of a legacy and part of a whole journey of movies.
Even then, I do like what it does as a sequel, because a lot of these sequels that we have here are just riding off of the fact of previous successes. They took that and turned it on its head, that it pissed off half of the Earth population. So I will give it that credit, but I really do think Jurassic Park, it's what we consider the blockbuster. You know, Spielberg, from Jaws to this, created classics.
And our next matchup is Lion King versus Spider-Man. Art,
Lion King.
One. Kevin?
Yes, agreed.
I'm going to go Lion King as well. Make it a sweep there. That takes us to the semifinals. Finding Nemo, The Dark Knight, Jurassic Park, and Lion King.
Wow.
Our favorite movies that have been box office champions. And now I feel like you're starting to see like a little bit of like a level of quality for these movies. You know, this is going to be some tough decisions here. We're going with maybe the brightest movie on this list to the most dark and menacing movie on the list. Finding Nemo versus The Dark Knight. Art, I know you love these movies. Can you pick one?
Finding Nemo.
Whoa.
Interesting. Kevin, you're not going that way.
I don't know. The Dark Knight is a really great movie. I actually like it more since the Dark Knight Rises came out, because when Dark Knight first came out, I saw it several times in theaters, not because I'm the type of person who sees movies, but all my friends were like, this group of friends were going to see it, and then this.
You found yourself,
yeah, and I didn't like how I didn't like the I'm not somebody who I gotta agree with the message in order to like a movie.
Yeah.
But I hated the message of The Dark Knight of
really
lying to the populace about Harvey Dent because they needed to be lied to.
Yeah.
I thought that was. I don't believe in that. I disagree wholeheartedly, and the movie never made you feel like they were saying that was a bad thing. Until The Dark Knight Rises came along, and you see consequences of them having lied to the people. Because I don't think the government needs to lie to us, even if there's, so we can have some sort of symbol of a great, like, I don't, if a politician falls, good. They were bad people. Behind the scenes, they were bad. If they're murderers, let it come out in the open. We shouldn't idolize people if they were murderers. Or at least we shouldn't idolize them for something they weren't. If there's somebody who does a good thing and a bad thing, we shouldn't write off the good thing just because they did a bad thing, but we should take all of that into account. And so I hated that Batman made the decision, like, we're going to, in his little monologue at the end where he's like, it's the hero that, they need, I need to be a scapegoat, basically. And I just quoted that exactly, I think. Pretty.
That's the ending. That's the ending line of the movie. You're not the only person I've heard say this. I've heard people argue that they believe that The Dark Knight is a mess of a movie in terms of who the main person is.
Are you not going The Dark Knight then?
Oh, what is it between
Finding Nemo?
I think that I really like The Dark Knight, and I really like Finding Nemo. But Finding Nemo is not my favorite Pixar movie.
Same.
So maybe I will say I'm going to go with The Dark Knight because I like Batman more than I like water.
Wow. Okay.
I'm going Dark Knight as well. Finding Nemo's not my favorite Pixar movie, although I think it's really great. The Dark Knight, I think the first half of that is just about as perfect as you can get for a kind of comic book superhero action movie. The second half I have some issues with, but it's like it's beyond that. It's like this dark and gritty and grounded idea of a superhero, because we've seen other movies sort of attempt that. I think there's a way in which the filmmaking is just a little bit more electric, a little bit more visceral, and they again, for the first half of that movie, the Joker is just genuinely terrifying in a way that I've never found him in films, before or since. So I'm gonna go with the Dark Knight.
I think that Nolan movies have a tendency to be very easy for shows like CinemaSins to rip apart, because I think he's a very like emotional director. He plays with your emotions, and to me, I think he does a good job at taking you on a ride, which is what films do. Films tell you, hey, you just learned everything about this person's entire life, but it all happened in 2 hours. It's all magic and trickery, and I think Nolan has that down so well, where he knows how to use the music and the cinematography and the acting and the shots and just everything to work with your emotion to make you experience something that I think that Into the Spider-Verse displays very well, that type of thing where it's like there's things happening, but it's much more cerebral than it is literal. It's much more. And I think Nolan kind of does that with his movies, to where if I can go on a ride with a movie, that the movie doesn't make me pull back and start looking for the problems, of course I can dive into a movie and find all the find a bunch of problems.
Yeah. Right.
Even CinemaSins says no movie is without sin, and it gets annoying, like that type of ripping a movie apart. But I can't. When I saw Spencer Confidential, I couldn't help but rip it apart because in the beginning, it took me out of the movie. It made me think, oh, this is a bad movie because of this decision and this decision. Now all I can do is pick the movie apart because it's made me do it. Where I think Nolan pulls me into his movies to where, yes, of course I can see the flaws, but I've enjoyed the experience, and
you give into it,
and so I give in, and so I don't know why I felt the need to say that, other than that's why. You had mentioned that people have pointed out all like these flaws in The Dark Knight, and sure, I agree, and I think there's those.
But he still puts you in that world.
Here, the Joker. I like the message of the Joker believing that people are all bad and realizing that actually communities won't all kill each other, and I think that's something that usually we see. Usually we see people arguing that, it would be mass hysteria and all this stuff. And I think that there is, even I live in Nashville and we had that tornado and there was this community coming together. And with the coronavirus I'm amazed at how few people have uprisen, even though there's some, and there's some, but
the vast majority of people we're seeing are doing good and being helpful to others in a way that that scene in The Dark Knight tries to illustrate.
So I think that's pretty cool. Yeah, I like The Dark Knight. It's a good movie.
Me too.
Agreed, and I like Nemo as well.
Our other semifinal is Jurassic Park versus The Lion King. Art, do you prefer dinosaurs or lions?
I'm going Jurassic Park, believe it or not. And Lion King very much so deserves to be there. This is just off of preference. And I think Jurassic Park hits practically every emotion that you need in a film. So I'm going that one.
Kevin?
I hate the semifinals.
Yes, that's the point.
I hate this so much.
It hurts.
It takes everything that you said in the first round and goes, "How you? Yeah?
Oh yeah?
Oh yeah?
You really believe that?"
Well, I wouldn't have rambled so much in the first round. I think I'm gonna go with Lion King.
Cool.
I just love that. I love that movie. I think the triune, Aladdin's my favorite, and then Lion King, and then Beauty and the Beast.
So
I think are.
How'd you feel about all the live actions?
I hate him so much.
Good.
Yeah. I think I might actually review Aladdin. I did a review, but I didn't do like a big old review.
Yeah.
Because there's so many problems with that movie that
they're
I couldn't
ripe
fit it
for
all
it.
in.
They are right. We were talking about like Terminator 2 and a lot of these blockbusters actually being some of YouTube reviewers like launching points was dissing these movies. What we're mentioning right now, same thing. Equally.
Yeah. I love Lion King, so I'll go with that.
Sorry to go against you 2 times in a row, Art. I'm going Lion King.
So you just don't care.
Yeah,
that's fair.
I love.
That's fine.
It's such a great movie.
It's fantastic.
The songs are great.
The theming,
the animation is beautiful. The characters have personality on their faces, unlike the more recent Lion King. I like Lion King a lot. Remember they did that re-release like a few years ago now.
Yeah.
I remember going to buy my ticket to the re-release and just being as swept away as I was as a child.
He's got Jonathan Taylor Thomas and Matthew Broderick.
It's fantastic.
How can you complain about that?
There was an episode of Home Improvement where it's like their cousin or something is over, and Randy's down on the ground and he's playing with the Simba character because it's Disney was ABC, and so he's playing and doing the voice like as a joke, like, "Hey, it's me, Simba," and then Tim Allen comes behind and picks up a
Buzz
Lightyear doll, and he's like, "Yeah, but what about me?" It's so funny. It's so good. I love the way Tim Allen has incorporated his other projects at times into.
You're gonna see that at what's his show, Last Man Standing. They're just gonna bring in the dolls and get sued out of it.
They did have the woman who played his wife on Home Improvement on Last Man Standing in an episode, and it was pretty funny. There was a lot of winks and nods. Anyway,
we'll take a break from the Tim Allen extended universe for the finals.
Dark Knight versus Lion King.
Dark Knight, Lion King. 2 iconic films, two vastly different movies.
Are they,
dark,
though?
gritty. Maybe not.
Things get real dark in both.
Mm-hmm. And
you've got a crazy guy who starts to breed chaos and darkness and
villains with maniacal laughter.
He's the one guy who can stop it, and he's reluctant, but then he does it. They're the same movie, actually.
You know, I would have said this. I was looking at the bracket, and I was like, all right, because I was picking Black Panther. I was like, if Black Panther goes against Lion King, those are definitely the same movie. It definitely trumps it. Mm-hmm. Comparing these two, it's crazy to think, like, because now we're talking decade of the 90s for Lion King, and then the decade of the late 2000s. I'm personally going Dark Knight. I think Lion King definitely withholds a stand of time as an animation. Remember it being the B animation that they were working on that year, Pocahontas being the main one. So for it to still have that, they made a live action animated version, and that still didn't even touch the surface of what they had going on with the original. They cut out scenes like the whole like getting hit with the stick. And talking about how that's a memory, how it's like just because it happened in the past doesn't mean you're not going to feel it. That's nowhere in the new one, which is the big message that you would want to hear. As we were talking about theming with other movies, I think that it definitely has a message. It's got a grittiness, like we were just comparing right now, that as much as it's a kid's movie, it stars, as a lot of Disney movies do, with a parental figure dying a horrible, gruesome death by the hand of a loved one, or should be a loved one. So while it's very close between the two, I will go Dark Knight on this one.
Kevin, how you feeling?
They're 2 different movies. I mean, I know
Very
I just
different.
said they're the same movie.
Make up your mind.
Oh, man. Yeah. So, but I don't... They are very different. Like, I love them both for 2 different reasons.
Does one answer your desert island?
Yeah, your desert island.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. I'm like, I guess if I get my island scenario, I would go with Lion King just because I have watched that more, because when you're a kid, you rewatch movies all the time. And so... And then I could sing with the songs.
You could sing instead of just
I quote
having to
that
sing along
movie
with "Bomb"
all the time. So and I watched that movie a lot when I was a young warthog. So
when I comes down to you,
like
Zach.
everyone else. This is a really tough decision. Maybe we should just call it a tie, but I don't think.
We've done that once.
I don't think. I'm gonna go Dark Knight.
Oh. Hey, they both begin with amazing beginnings. Like they draw you in immediately. You've got the song.
Yep.
With the sun coming up, and then you've got that
the wall just
in the
going through, and they skyline over the buildings. Yeah,
and the Dark Knight pulls you in with the bank robbery, and the oh man,
they're classics.
What good.
You really can't go wrong. Yeah, when you come, honestly, we've noticed that when you come down to the final four, might as well just call it, right? Call it like the nominations. Don't give out a best picture. Just say all four of y'all were great. So we're curious to see how the inner cuties take it. You know, many times they disagree with us. I'm sure that they had ones in round one where they're like, yeah, I stopped watching at that point.
Exactly. Shout out to the Avatar fans out there who are not happy right now.
Hey, Avatar 2 may have a chance. It'll be at the number one spot when it comes.
Then maybe people will dress up as avatars.
At the screenings with their tails and stuff to keep the 6 feet apart.
All right, so The Dark Knight wins our best box office champ bracket, but let us know what you think should have won, where we went wrong. Again, you can reach out on social media at IntercutPod, be a InterCutie, and send us movie, TV, and entertainment questions, and we will answer them on future episodes of the podcast. We're going to get to our final segment, the new to see, where we give the audience our picks for the week, recommendations for what to watch. Art, why don't you kick us off? What are your picks for the week?
So there's a recent movie that was from TIFF. It's called Human Capital. It's out on VOD. Alina was able to catch it at TIFF. Yeah. She's been hyping it up for me for the longest time, and I finally got the chance to watch it. It's a pretty decent movie. I'd say it's definitely worth the rent it. That covers all these different perspectives, and someone got hit by a car. And you're seeing some stuff in the present, some stuff as flashbacks. And it's one of those movies that's definitely worth the second viewing because you notice where people were standing in the background and stuff like that. So if that intrigues you, that would be my recommendation. In terms of streaming, the Willoughbys, if I'm not exactly sure when that goes, right? I want to say, but
it'll be
up by this time, then my streaming pick, you don't even got to rent. Waste any VOD money right from the comfort of your couch. Netflix has a new animation coming out, and I mean it when I say the animation itself is really good. I like the story, I like the tone of it, I like the jokes, but even then, I still think that the animation is a standout. So those are my picks.
Totally. I can second the Willoughbys there. But Kevin, what are your picks? What do you recommend the people out there on lockdown do to entertain themselves?
Besides Tiger King.
Tiger King, yeah, I don't know. Well, I had never I never had HBO, and so I signed up for that for the free, and so I've watched Westworld.
Okay,
it's great show. As long as you're okay with seeing, they're not a lot of nudity in it, but they're robots, so it's
HBO.
Okay.
Yeah. Did you get to season 2 or just season 1?
Season 2. I'm on season 3 now.
Oh, okay.
How are you up to date, or are you still catching up with season 3?
I think I'm still catching up.
All right.
So how are you enjoying it so far? I know more people were mixed on season 2 than season 1.
I could see that. Season 2 just gets into deeper. Like season 1 it's a movie stretched out.
Yes.
It's got a beginning, a middle, and an end, and it builds and it's got a climax, and it's definitely feels like a really long movie. Season 2 gets deeper, I think, into some nuances and there's more going on. It's not so much well, and also you have literally a character his scenes I feel they switched around out of order on purpose.
Yeah.
And because it's a glitch that's happening to him, and that I think that season 2 is better technically and just in a lot of like
right. That's interesting. We don't hear this usually.
But I think season 1 is more digestible. There's just I don't think that they worked less hard on season 2. I think they actually worked harder on season 2.
Yeah.
But I could see I guess I say all that to say I could see why people wouldn't like it, just because it's less accessible. And then you also have the fact that it kind of all there's a thing that happens at the end of season 1 that basically that thing is just happening throughout season 2.
Yeah, it's the repercussion.
That you think they're going to wrap up quickly. They just turned that whole thing into the whole season.
True. I also feel it's
Kind of.
a very big. I haven't started season 3 yet. I feel it's a very big setup for season 3, which is always like a sad thing that you have to go through. But in order to really build up where you want the story arc to go, sometimes, and it usually is season 2, is that sacrifice season that's setting up so that 3, 4, and 5 can.
It's
fly.
when they get told they sign the contract for more seasons and like, oh, we could do more. Let's
more.
take our time.
Yeah.
I mean, Walking Dead kind of season 2
Season
is
2 when
like
it dragged out,
super slow. But season 1 is just like nonstop. But it's also fewer episodes. And so season 3 is interesting so far, but it's a different show.
Yeah, they did a bit of a reset on season 3, which to me has been interesting because you expand the scope of the show and you're getting a different side to the society that they've created. To me, Westworld is a show that's at its most interesting when it's asking like, what kinds of future tech will we see and what is going to happen to society because it's readily available, right? And the ways in which this season has been about predictive analysis and its impact on humans' abilities to live their lives is something that is cool because it resonates with things that we see in the real world. I am mixed on some of the way that it's delivered on the show, but it's always a show that I like thinking about, and I like listening to Westworld podcasts just because the questions that it brings up are really fun.
You know what's interesting about it? It's the season 1 feels a lot like Jurassic Park in a lot of ways.
Oh, same author.
And but yet apparently I've never watched the original Westworld, but apparently it's nothing like the show.
But
that the show is more like Jurassic Park than the original movie was like Jurassic Park, even though
it would be reversed,
you would think, because he's not involved in the show, right?
Well, I think he's dead.
But right, yeah, that's right. But it's interesting because clearly the show was very inspired by Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's good. It's really good.
That was the ghost of Michael Crichton saying, "No, I prefer the original Westworld."
I got another HBO recommendation for you, Kevin. Now that you're on HBO,
yeah.
This Saturday, we'll be seeing the unveiling of Bad Education, another movie that Art and I were at TIFF for. I caught it at TIFF. It's the new movie from director Corey Finley, who made another film we like called Thoroughbreds. This one takes place in a Long Island public school where Hugh Jackman, as the school's principal, is heading up the single largest public school embezzlement in history. And it's got this kind of quirky, almost Alexander Payne's Election style of comedy to it, in that there's this kind of like good appearances of trying to be a good upstanding citizen, and then like nefarious feelings underneath and intentions, and that ultimately this principal is being taken down by his school's newspaper. It's got a great cast. Beyond Hugh Jackman, you have Allison Janney is doing excellent work. Ray Romano is really funny in every scene that he's in. Geraldine Viswanathan, there we go, who has been in some other comedies, is very good in this one. Also, my boy Jimmy Tatro from American Vandal shows up briefly. That was hilarious to me. I really like Bad Education.
Okay.
It's going to be on HBO this Saturday.
I like anything
make sure you check
that
one out.
exposes corruption in public schools. So that's that's fun. I'll check it out. I also been watching Veep. If you want something lighthearted. I wouldn't say I'm a fan, but I really enjoyed West Wing back in the day, and this is like a parody of the West Wing, and I think it kind of breaks the Seinfeld curse that at one point there was, where actors who were on Seinfeld had a really hard time doing other things, probably because they were all so rich from doing Seinfeld that they didn't feel...
And so known for that character specifically.
But it's amazing that Julianne Dreyfus...
Julie Louis.
Is hilarious. It reminds me a lot of... it reminds me of a little bit of Leslie Knope and Parks and Rec. But if you were to take what's the lady who did Sarah Palin on SNL?
Oh, Tina Fey.
If you were to take her character and build a show around it, that's basically what the show is. And it's great. It's really good.
Yeah.
Because they're all terrible
Absolutely.
people, just like Seinfeld. It's terrible people, but they're in government, and they're like... So it's probably one of the most accurate portrayals of what really goes on in the government. So besides House of Cards, of course, where, they're all murdering people and stuff, so...
Yeah, the joke writing on Veep particularly is so precise and cutting.
Oh, yeah.
Very funny show.
It's good.
But I think that's about all for this week's show. You can catch more from me, Zach Shevich, by following me on Twitter, Instagram, or Letterboxd at ZShevich, ZSHEVICH, and check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/multiplex show. Kevin, where can people catch more from you?
You can check out my website, saygoodnightkevin.com, or just go to my YouTube channel, youtube.com/saygoodnightkevin. I upload videos, do reviews of movies, and oftentimes of Christian movies, which are just, I love them so much that I built an entire channel around watching them. So
Yes, the patron saint of Christian cinema. Art, where can people find more from you?
You can find me at The Z Show, or Let Me Explain on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube, and every week here on the Intercut Podcast.
You can listen to every episode of the Intercut Podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, or Spotify on your favorite podcatcher. I like Overcast, and then make sure you're subscribed not just to the audio podcast, but to the video feed as well on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/IntercutPod, where you can catch our bright, smiling faces as we break down the latest in entertainment. Find new episodes of Intercut every Friday, and please leave us a comment, like the videos, consider heading over to iTunes to give us a 5-star review, and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. All of those are at Intercut Pod. You'll get updates throughout the week from me, from Art, from all the guests that we feature here on Intercut, including Kevin. So thanks again for tuning in, and until next time. You know the thing about messiahs, don't you?